I learned to paint graphics like this in less than a day, and I'm not a painter. In this video, I'm going to show you some hacks that I use to learn new skills fast, and I'm going to throw in some beginner paint tips along the way. I've got the drill press cabinet here that I built, and I put a coat of paint on it, expecting to do a little bit different design than we're actually doing. So we're basically just going to coat the whole thing in the dark shade here and go from there. Whatever finish it is, paint, stain, whatever it is already stuck to the surface. You've already got a surface to bond to, so you don't actually have to remove the paint. I'm going back with some 500 because I just painted this. It's got a polyurethane clear coat, and I just want to scuff it up to make sure it'll take the new paint. Any paint that's left after you do that is paint that new paint will adhere to because it's already stuck. So you don't have to remove all of the finish from something you're going to go paint. You can even do a test to scuff it up, do a little piece, wait a couple days, see if it scratches off. If it doesn't scratch off, you're good to go. You're going to clear coat it anyway. So unless it's going to be in an industrial environment, you're all set. So I got it sanded, wiped it down with a tack cloth. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of compressed air just to get the dust off of it. So this is just a color that I came up with and had them mix for me. It's just semi-gloss latex, and I've been calling it slate gray because it's just a really, really dark gray. I've been watching way too many car painting videos, so we're gonna throw some shiny bits in here just to make it a little interesting and spice things up a bit. If you have a lot of small paint containers and you would like to mix them a little better, because all of the solids sort of stay around the bottom and the edges, I'll throw a couple ball bearings in the mix. Ideally ones that aren't rusty, but I'm not that worried about it. You can use bigger ball bearings too, they just get more expensive. Really nice mix because they scrape the sides and the bottom. Same reason they have it in spray cans. So if you don't know about these and you work out of gallon containers, you can just pop these on a gallon container, and you can really just wait till this dries or wipe it off. But if you wait till it dries, it just peels right off. Get a couple of these, super handy. Now, as far as thinning paints, for an airbrush, washer fluid works really good. It's got a little bit of solvent in there, way better than water. And we always strain our paint because, especially if we put particulates in it, because there might be chunks of pigment in the paint or anything like that. We don't want that getting in and clogging our gun. I'll just set that on top of the cup and we'll get to painting this. Make sure your amount of paint is right and your spray is right. Get a little test board. Now, there are a lot of different types of airbrush work. The type of airbrushing I'm doing in this video is going to require a lot of tape, a lot of masking. It's closer to something you'd see on a lowrider rather than something for a shop cabinet. Think candy paint, geometric patterns, and clean taped out graphic panels. So I'm trying to use this mini HVLP, which is a thing I just discovered, and it's about half the size of my normal HVLP gun. It's just not giving me the coverage that I need. This gun I know will do what I need it to do really fast in this circumstance. So I'm gonna switch over to this gun instead. On this cabinet, I'm treating every section as its own panel. Just like framing a photo, I'm framing each panel one by one. You can already see the first step, that tape running around the outside edges. Now I'm moving on to the border. That's the line that actually contains the pattern, the space that the design will live in, and the size of that border matters. The width of the tape, the spacing, it all affects how the pattern feels. If you've ever done graphic design work, it's the same idea as line weight. When your pattern is geometric and made of clean lines, those line width choices relative to the panel size do make a difference. If the Mona Lisa was 50 feet tall on the side of a building, she'd probably stop looking interesting and mysterious, and she'd just seem like she was judging traffic patterns. Scale changes the whole experience. Eighth-inch line all around the whole thing, and then we close that line up with this black 1/8" paper tape. And I've just got some of this photo spray adhesive, and hopefully this will give us good adhesion to the side of the cabinet when I have to lay it on, because it's hard to get this stuff to lay flat. And Baxter's gonna let me know when it actually is ready to put on the cabinet. Baxter, you gonna let me know? Yeah, you're gonna let me know. All right. Let's pull the lace off here and see what we think. So you can see, I don't really mind all these lines and stuff. That's not that big a deal to me. But you can see where We had good adhesion here where the lace was down all the way. And if we look closely at the tape, we can see that that was too much paint too fast also. Like here, the lace was floating a little bit, floating more here. Laces down. So I need to maybe spray a little bit more of the spray adhesive to get it down. It's really good to note and be intentional with this stuff, because that's how you learn. You'll never figure it out if you're just going through the process willy-nilly and you're not looking at what's actually happening. The drop shadow is what gives everything depth. A flat shape suddenly lifts off the surface the moment you float a soft shadow under it. It's a small detail, but it makes the graphics feel layered, intentional, and alive. That subtle fade can be the difference between crafted artwork and something that looks like a printer spit it out while it was still warming up. So as I'm peeling this, I'm keeping this 1/8 inch line by just taking a piece of tape and using the scissors to cut a little half circle to keep those sort of backed up. Same way we did the opposite way around. Now, whether this is the way you'd normally do this or not, I have no idea. Just use a flat razor blade to cut off the end of the tape. Now, I have zero issue with being roasted in the comments for whatever is happening here. If you see something wrong, you see something I could have done better, feel free to tell me about it, but tell me what I could have done better. So let's pull the tape and see what we have. So if we go through and examine the problems, like this is some overspray bleeding in between the paint. That line isn't very smooth, and there's also some overspray happening there. The corner there didn't get cut on the tape. There's bleed through along a lot of that tape. Part of that is just I'm not using great tape. The other thing I could do is just go with the 16th, which I know will bend these corners a little better, and I'll have to just wrap it twice, which is way more work. So if I actually spent the extra time and used better tape, then we would see better results. And this is just a shop cabinet. It's kind of interesting. It's almost with this mesh pattern. It almost gives you like almost feels like a real mesh. It almost gives you like a holographic. Front, pretty much just the same theme here. And I have my piping going this way as a baseline, and then come off of it in different pipe sections and try to make it look all cohesive. And the reason I kind of touch the middle like that on some of them is because I feel like you can steer the tape a little bit in the wrong direction as you're pressing down. So like even if I have it pivoted here, I can steer this tape. So I'd rather rest it there, know that this is in the correct spot, and then kind of get it centered. And then right there, now I know it's centered and I can't really steer it as much anymore, and then lay it down flat. That's just how I've been doing it. So the more piping you put on this, the more you have to make the curves, and that's really the hard part, the curves and outlining the curves. So although I'd love to do way more with this, I think this is about as far as I'm gonna let my creativity go, because it's just gonna make way more work for me in the end. So I'm starting by chopping up all of these little pieces of tape because that's what's going to hold my fine line tape in place. I ended up pulling each drawer out and working on them flat. The fine line work is just easier in that orientation. The tighter the radius, the harder it is to get this to wrap around. That's why I have this little tool here. And experience may overcome this, but for now, my little tool seems to be doing the job. That's what she said. Edit that out. Basically, I'm doing the drawers just like I did the side. I lay out the larger masking tape, then lay out the fine line in just the corners to get the right radius and taper. Then I come back with the full line. I will add that this fine line tape is the only tape I'm using that's not super cheap. It's actually tape that's designed for this sort of thing, still a cheap version of that tape, which seems like the running theme of this video, but at least I'm in the right category. Once that's done, I'll come back and seal the gap with the thin black masking tape, and I'll have links in the description for all the stuff I'm using on this paint job. So we've got this all laid out, the white masking tape and the blue line tape. And there's going to be a little gap in the middle, right? Because they're just riding on each other. It's not going to be sealed. So we need to seal that gap before we paint it. 1/8 inch masking, because I have a lot of it and it's cheap. It's going to go around the edges here and see if we can seal that up a little better than it is now. So another quick trick, keep a little brush around. Airbrushes and HVLP, if you're pausing and starting and pausing and starting and whatever, to clean off the tip of the nozzle. So we had a little bit of a problem while this was sitting here drying for just a couple minutes before I put the next coat on. The top two drawers, which apparently I didn't put enough spray glue on, sort of sloped off. I think we're just gonna fade it up. Roll with the punches here. And all I'm gonna do for the fade is I'm just gonna move a couple inches back on all these. So where here I'm like 6 to 8 inches, I'm gonna move back to maybe 10 inches on this one. To the point where this top one's almost gonna be like ghosted in. It's not gonna be nearly as bold as the bottom one. We'll see how it turns out. This is a shop cabinet. You know, we learn here. Obviously, I have learned that I didn't put enough spray glue on this portion. Spray glue I'm using, I bought this for the project because somebody recommended it. It's just like Elmer's multi-purpose, safe for photos. I do not like this very much. This is one that I have that I've used for all kinds of different projects, and this seems to work a little better for me. So now we gotta airbrush in all the shadows. To airbrush in the shadows, I'm using this better airbrush because I don't want to use the really cheapo one, but it's just not, it's not gonna give you a smooth, fade and anything. It's good if you just want some coverage or just the color of something, but now you can drop $300 on a premium airbrush, but you don't need it for basic projects. A high-end brush gives you razor-thin control, smoother atomization, and a trigger that feels like it's reading your mind with a little bit of practice. You may ask, when might you need an expensive airbrush? Something like painting photorealistic portraits or laying down ultrafine lines where every millimeter matters. My $30 brush, it spits a little, it needs a little cleanup, it won't pull hairline details, but for base coats, shading, panel fades, and shop projects, it gets the job done without draining your wallet. So we've got a problem right here. There's a lot of coats of paint on here. And it started as a little tiny dot. For this, I'm just gonna scrape this paint off where it doesn't seem to be connecting. We're gonna go over this with this next coat, and you're gonna see that this is gonna leave a mark here. And that's probably a spot that I missed with the sandpaper, or that I didn't go back over with a tack cloth to get the dust off of there. And so the paint was trying to adhere dust, which is not going to adhere very well. So these top two panels are the panels that we didn't do the black seam tape over to sort of bridge the gap between the two fine lines. So let's take a look at this panel as I pulled this off. So we can see right here, basically on all these corners I bleed through really bad right there. And you can see because they're not round. That's a good one to note for myself. Make sure to cover the seam lines. We're going to line the edge of our wide masking tape up. We're going to follow that blue line all the way down. We see it hit to the edge of the blue line before it cuts off. We just cut off our broad masking tape basically. And we're just going to do that throughout the entire thing. Having the little rounded edge, I don't know if this is a thing that people who actually do pinstripe or masking or anything do. The little rounded edge, for me, with my skill level, is worth the extra effort to cut that, because It definitely saves me some trying to get around a corner or do something that would otherwise be kind of difficult to do. You hear me talk about budget tape a few times in this video. And what I mean is quote-unquote masking tape that's not really suitable for painting crisp edges. The usual issue is that the tape doesn't seal properly and allows paint to bleed through. But a different issue, one that I'm just discovering in this build, is the adhesive getting too hot and leaving a sticky mess when you peel it off. Specifically these drawer handles. Okay, so just clean it. But how do you clean hard to remove adhesive residue off of a freshly painted surface without ruining the paint? Don't ask me. I tried everything I could think of, and I ended up just crossing my fingers and hoping that the adhesive would bond to the clear top coat and everything would stick. Which I know is super dumb, but it seems that it worked. I don't know how, but the clear coat stuck really well, which is kind of crazy. All right, everything's all dry. So hopefully anything that goes wrong is fine and acceptable. I don't know for sure. So I could keep you all the way out here in TV land and tell you that everything is perfect because it does look pretty decent from here, but let's go take a look at the problems that are going on. So the first one was that part where we had the paint peeling up, which doesn't really look any different. If you look how bad this surface was to start with, and that's going to account for a lot of the problems. This is why I decided to paint it to begin with, and then I went off on some weird creative path. And then you can see lots of bleed through. Part of that is the irregular surface. Part of that is just not sealing the between the tape. You can do that with clear coat. Clear coat on this, from what I understand, between coats would have been a really good idea. It kind of bled through a little bit on the thin line, probably just not being pressed down all the way, probably a little bit of the surface. If we look close to the part where I repaired it, you can see an outline of where the wood glue was, where the wood filler was. But honestly, this is way better than a big chunk of missing paint, and it's all secure. Nothing's coming up or anything like that. The tape got too hot, or I've just got crummy tape. All this tape is super budget tape, which doesn't help anything. Super budget tape on a super budget surface with super budget paint, and we're just budgeting it up here. I mean, this is way more work than the side was, but I got to figure out what I'm doing on this last side. On this last side of the cabinet, I'm gonna wing it because you've already watched me tape and paint two sides. But I would like to talk a little bit about the airbrush process. The other essential component to airbrushing would be the compressor. You can get air compressors small, relatively quiet, and exclusively for airbrushing. I'm using a large 30-gallon air compressor because that's what I've got in the shop. As a newbie, mine took a lot of fiddling with the regulator. I landed somewhere around 35 psi. I'm also using latex paint that's been modestly thinned. The thicker the paint, the higher the pressure you'll need. Genuine airbrush paints might only require 15 or so psi. Speaking of fiddling, what you haven't seen is the entire process leading up to this point, which is pretty much doing research, exercises, figuring out the hard way that using an airbrush effectively not only requires practice, but there is also a fair amount of ergonomics involved. How you hold the airbrush, where you're resting the airline, and even how you hold your finger on the trigger can change how precise your action is and how long you'll be able to use the airbrush before things start getting uncomfortable. There are also a couple different airbrush options. I happen to be using siphon feed airbrushes simply because they were cheap ones. As far as colors, I'm using 3 different grays and a black. A light gray base coat, the custom slate gray for the lace pattern, black for the drop shadows, and dark gray for the pipe shading. And we don't ever have to talk about whatever this glittery blue racetrack stuff is that I'm painting on the last side. Just ignore that ever happened. So I did leave this sitting for a few days before I came back in and faded in the edges. So I made sure to hit it with the air compressor, get any dust that's settled on it off of it nice and clean. I think we should be able to pull the tape now and see how weird this looks. So the drill press cabinet's done and ready to be put in place. I just wanted to make this video. I was going to go on this journey by myself, and it turned into like this weird painting airbrushing thing where I was doing a lot of research, and I didn't know anything about it to start with. I painted walls and I painted cabinets, but it's all been, you know, flat color, no graphics, nothing like that. I just wanted to show you that you can do it if you look at something. Instead of looking at it like a problem, you look at it like a problem-solving opportunity where you can find different ways to do things. It's like the people in the comments that say, oh, I could do that if I had a big shop, or I could do that if I had the tools, or I could do that if I blah, blah, blah. What it is you could do that if you had the mindset in order to gain some skills to create that for yourself. And I kind of wanted to pass that on because that's something that I do all the time when I pick up different things, and I try to look at something instead of looking at it as an obstacle. I look at it as an opportunity to go and learn and try a new thing and pick up a new skill. And remember that people weren't all gifted big shops and lots of paints and lots of skills and lots of talents. I don't have a lot of artistic talent, but what I have is pretty good problem solving ability and the ability to do a lot of research and the ability to put forth the effort toward a project in order to complete something. So anyway, I want to encourage you to take that and use it as you will. Try to adopt that thinking where things are opportunities to learn something and grow from that and create some new skills for yourself and dog butt. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Until the next video, you guys have a good one. The Elmer's kind of leaves little glue, whatever you want to call them, and I don't really love it. So
you know what I mean? Like, I don't mind you talking crap. That's fine. But tell me how it should have been done. Don't just talk crap and then leave. So give me some advice on it, all right? We're working on 1 week's worth of practice here.
And then you can pour it. You should always filter before you put anything in a gun. Oh. It would help if you dry it off the side. So right now I can tell you this is probably going to have issues, but we're going to try it anyway since this is sort of the back side. We did the eighth inch curves and then the eighth inch line. I can't say tongue twister. Don't pay attention to how the spacing on the drawers is because this is a shop cabinet and I threw it together really quickly, only to figure out that I was going to learn to paint on this cabinet. So really quickly and then really slowly, and here we are. The shop's a mess, but I figured I'd bring you guys in here for a little bit of behind the scenes action. So this is 9 months later. It took me that long to get the video out because I've been having some health stuff go on. But you can see the drill press is mounted on here because actually the top of a cubicle that I cut down, and it'll still wrap around the edge if you do it right. But you can see, you know, all the drawers held up well. This is just house paint, just latex, and it's got a polyurethane clear coat on it. This trash can is always here rubbing against the side. You can see this is probably where the most wear is. You can see it's worn the paint a little bit on there, but even the bottom coat is still there. It's not down to the wood. And I haven't been taking it easy on the cabinet either. So you can see that there's kind of wear where you would normally see. I literally open these couple top true drawers like every time I use a drill press, which is all the time. So it's been really good, held up really well. The other side almost doesn't get touched at all, so I'm sure it's pristine. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. There's a fly in here somewhere that's annoying me, so I'm gonna take care of that, and I'll see you guys in the next one.